G'day, I'm Mark from Self Sufficient Me, and I'm back with another how to grow a ton of video. In this case, it's ginger. Now I've been growing ginger for a heck of a long time, and over the years I've learnt quite a few things about growing this magnificent rhizome grown underneath the soil. It's one of the world's most useful and beneficial foods. But let's not ramble on too much about it, and let's just get into my 5 top tips on how to grow a ton of ginger. Tip number 1, position. Here I am down here, right in the middle of our property. No tree shade, full sun. That is the best place to grow ginger, where it gets plenty of sunlight. Now in the past, we've grown ginger in this very bed actually, when it was placed underneath the gum trees to my right. Part shade, actually grew quite well. So you can grow ginger in part shade or a partly shaded position. However, it does grow much better when it's exposed to, well, as much sunlight as you can give it. Ginger also grows very well in containers. So for those smaller places, maybe you don't have big garden beds, maybe you're on a balcony, if you can give it as much sun as possible, you can grow it in a pot, no trouble at all. In fact, you can get some great harvests out of some small containers. Tip number 2, soil. Now if I dig in here and squeeze this soil together, it holds together just nicely, and then I can crumble it apart. It's rich, it's full of organic matter, and that's what ginger loves. The soil has to be able to hold moisture, but be free draining. So that means retain moisture, but not be sopping wet so that it constricts growth and suffocates the rhizome. Making good soil for ginger is easy. You want to develop your soil over time by adding homemade compost. If you can't make it at home, buy some compost, mix it into the soil, use mulch, use the old ginger plant stems. That breaks down, and as that breaks down and gets eaten by microbes and worms, it mixes into the soil and becomes an excellent moisture holding capacity and an excellent food source for the ginger. And that leads me into tip number 3, water. If you want nice big fat rhizomes that are plump, you need to water ginger a lot. It loves water, but only if the soil is free draining. So there's that balance. You need that organic, good structured soil because you want that water running through that container or the soil or wherever the ginger's planted, so that ginger can take up as much water as it needs, but it doesn't want to be sitting in water. That's the balance you've got to create, and it's not really that hard. When I first plant my ginger, I generally lay off the water. That's about the only time I don't water it often. Because when you first plant the tubers out or the rhizomes out, you don't want them to rot in the soil before it starts growing and developing its root system. I generally leave it. I leave rain do its thing, natural rainfall, whatever. Maybe if it's very, very dry, I might give it the odd water, but generally I just leave my ginger sit and wait till I see the shoots come through. And that's when I start giving it its regular water. And not overwatering at planting leads me on to tip number 4, planting. And here's the ginger all laid out. I've got the pile that I want to plant in here, and I've got a small pile of nice big plump juicy pieces of ginger that I'm going to take inside and store in a nice cool dry place, probably just on the kitchen bench actually, near the dried chilies. If I need more ginger, I can always just come back to the garden and dig it up. So I'm not losing out. Now a nice big long piece like this, I can break up into several pieces. Probably about, you can just break it off where it's naturally, you can see where there's a natural indent. Here it goes into a small narrow place. Break it off there. I don't look for eyes and where it might be starting to grow, like here's an eye here, and then point that up or whatever. Don't worry about all that bumpkin. I mean, yeah, okay, if you want to be really pedantic, but don't bother. I just break it into nice chunks of pieces. You can go even smaller than that if you really want and spread it out. You could break that into like 2-inch or inch-sized pieces and plant that. That will grow another ginger plant. But I like to break them into segments about that size because that gives plenty of food for the ginger plant to start to grow off, and then it can multiply from there. So it gives it a good start if it's about that big, couple of inches across in diameter. Then I go about laying it all out around 20 centimeters or half a foot apart. Lay it all out first. And of course, once I've got the ginger all laid out, then I bury them. Now I only bury the ginger a little bit underneath the soil, not too deep, maybe an inch, because you don't want to bury them too deep. If you bury it too deep, it's too hard for the ginger to shoot through too much layers of soil. I mean, you're not planting potatoes here, and by the time it gets that energy spent to try to get through that soil, that ginger root could be expended and it might just rot and die. So it's just a matter of easily just pushing it in under as you go, just slightly under the soil, an inch if that. Once I've buried the ginger, I use some of my trusty organic blood and bone. You could use your chicken manures and all at that top, other animal manures if you want. I would hesitate on using anything sort of grass fed like horse manure, because that might end up with a whole lot of weeds and grass through your ginger. Because ginger's a sparse growing plant as it is, well, clumped together like this, it can grow fairly well, but it might get out competed by some heavy grasses, and that could be a bit of a pain trying to weed in between the ginger shoots. So I would hesitate on using those type of manures. Chicken manure probably better, or quail manure in my case as well. But if you don't have that, a good organic fertiliser like organic blood and bone, that's the bee's knees. Just liberally spread around the top here. And that'll give that ginger an extra boost. Before you think of fertiliser, think of good organic composted soil with plenty of organic matter. That is more important than giving too much fertiliser or any fertiliser at all. The next thing I do is mulch. A nice heavy mulch, sugarcane mulch, wood chip, whatever. And this is going to keep it nice and comfortable, suppress weeds, and as it breaks down, it's going to also provide feed for that hungry ginger. And that's planting done. And going hand in hand with planting comes tip number 5. Eating, or you could say harvesting. But I want to talk about them both because they go hand in hand, I reckon. If you're going to grow a ton of ginger, you want to be bloody eating it, don't you? I mean, otherwise, what's the point? People often think that you need to wait for ginger to develop and die off before you can start harvesting it, right at the end of the season. In most cases, in a normal cool climate, it's at the beginning of winter when it all dies back, and then you can harvest the rhizomes. In a subtropical climate, you might find that, or a tropical climate, you might find that the ginger keeps growing way into even midwinter before it all dies back. Waiting for the ginger to die back isn't at all necessary. You can start harvesting ginger right from the get-go, right from planting actually. But more so after the shoots have developed and they're about a foot or so high, you'll see that the tubers will start to form. That's called young ginger. You can harvest it from then onwards. Ginger is excellent for your health. It's known to help with cardiovascular disease, help your circulatory system. It's known for helping the digestive system, helping your body to absorb other vitamins and minerals necessary for your overall health. It helps with pain relief, cancer fighting, and there's a myriad of other beneficial aspects of eating ginger. And that's it. My top 5 tips. Position, soil, water, planting, harvesting / eating. Do those 5 things right and you will grow a ton of ginger just like I can. It's dead set easy. One of the easiest rhizomes, vegetables, spices, whatever you want to call it, to grow. So if you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. It's important that you share it, and also, how about leave a comment below on what's your favourite way to use ginger. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye for now.